Hi everybody, happy to meet you for the module titled Why, What and When to Assess. Before venturing into this module, let us look into a demo of an educator's day in a preschool. On a Monday morning, a facilitator welcoming the children of her center looks at a 4-year-old Ritvika running towards her and joyfully showing her new spectacles and saying, "Now I can see Chota Bheem even sitting on the sofa of my living room." The facilitator recollects the vision screening camp organized by the school and the parents being notified regarding the vision acuity of Ritvika. A few minutes later, when the children were seated in the classroom, the facilitator enters the room and wishes children good morning and asks them to arrange themselves for morning prayer. She finds Melvin laying his head on his table with his eyes closed. Though Melvin woke up and teamed up for prayer, the facilitator took note of the behavior of Melvin in her observation record. As the classes were going on, the facilitator saw Rahul disturbing the child sitting beside him by pinching her, by scribbling on a worksheet, and the other child looking at him helplessly. The facilitator wonders why Rahul is so aggressive and decides to have a detailed analysis by meeting his parents in the evening. This vignette of a facilitator's job within the first half an hour of her experience in the Early Learning Center brings in the vitality of observing every activity and behavior of a child. Though these even seem to be so normal in day-to-day activities, every assessment made by the facilitator is important for the effective learning and development process. Though the systematic assessment of children's behavior and progress involves too much time than it would take for providing learning experiences, assessing the child's learning and development provides vital information for the facilitator as well as the parents to make wise decisions about the child. Every facilitator should believe that assessment is not an added task to her job, but rather an integral aspect of her role as a facilitator. This module on assessment deals with why, what and when to assess young children concerning early learning centers and comes to you in the form of 3 videos. At the end of the first video, you will be able to comprehend the term assessment in ECCE, recognize the types of assessment carried out in Early Learning Center. Now, what is assessment? To use assessment suitably and precisely among young children, the facilitator should acquire a deeper understanding of the term assessment. Assessment is generally defined as the ongoing process of gathering evidence of children's learning and development, then organizing and interpreting the information to make informed decisions about teaching pedagogy. However, the term evidence in the above said definition has to be furthermore elaborated. It is defined as evidence is something that indicates a child's learning, such as a response to a question or their solution to a problem. Hence, evidence has to be collected systematically over time by using varied relevant sources of assessment in such a way that judgment of a child can be made by the facilitators and the specific actions manifested in the child. Now, let us have a look on the types of assessment. Assessment is of various types depending upon the implications of 2 different contexts of how and when it is conducted. The first and the foremost important type of assessment is formative and summative assessment. In a broader perspective, assessment is of 2 types, namely formative and summative. Now let us understand it in detail. What is formative assessment? It's a process of gathering information about children, whereas summative is summing up or evaluating the effectiveness of experience after it concludes. Here, the evaluation is a process of making a judgment from the results of the assessment and is normally considered as the final step. And why formative assessment is used or summative assessment is used? Formative assessment is to provide appropriate support to progress and to decide on the next step in the teaching learning process, whereas summative is to make judgment about assessment results. And on the aspect of when it has to be conducted, formative assessment has to be conducted now and then as a teaching learning process, whereas summative assessment has to be conducted at the end of an educational experience. And how is it to be conducted? Formative or through tests and feedbacks, whereas summative is through the final exams. But in a preschool, it is by comparing the observation of a child's progress in relation to the observation made at the beginning of the year. Now, the second type of assessment is about informal assessment. It is defined as information gathered for use by teachers to make routine decisions in the classroom. For example, a teacher while narrating a story finds few children uninterested. This casual observation helps the teacher to change her narrating style or shift to one another activity wherein every child is involved. Then the third type of assessment is formal assessment. This sort of assessment follows a well-defined procedure with a precisely formulated tool. The formal assessment is again done in two ways. They are called as structured observation and the assessment by providing scores. This type of assessment is generally used to report the progress of the child to others authentically. The fourth assessment tool is observation. It is a most frequently used effective assessment strategy among children of early years. The observation might be informal and formal. The facilitators observe children informally in the classroom setting, maybe both indoor and outdoor, on a routine basis. Whereas formal observation is carried out by using well-defined observation tools. Also, the process of observation used both in the formative and summative assessment is of two types. One is curriculum-embedded assessment and play-based assessment. The observation procedure that is integrated into the curriculum as a routine activity rather than conducting it as a separate process is called curriculum-based assessment. For example, a teacher observing a child while writing and assess the child's difficulty in writing. The second is play-based assessment. It's the observation process being carried out during the structured or free play sessions showing the indicators of socialization and temperament of a child. Then the fifth type is performance assessment. It is otherwise referred to as authentic assessment. This assessment is made by providing an environment for the child to demonstrate a learned skill or apply the learned skill to situations. For example, if a teacher wants to assess a child's reading ability, the teacher can ask the child to read aloud and listen to it rather than giving a test. In other words, this assessment assesses a child's performance in terms of both what the child can do independently and what he can do with the help of others. For example, a facilitator can provide cues or prompts to a child to elicit a desired response. Then she can analyze the level of understanding of the child in that particular concept based on the number of cues or prompts provided to the child. Then is about the standardized assessment. This type of assessment gains importance in relation to other methods in being less biased and giving accurate objective results. Standardized assessment does not vary in its procedure and assesses the performance of similar tasks at similar conditions. However, the standardized assessment tools should have high levels of reliability and validity for effective analysis. With an understanding of the types of assessment, let us meet again in the second video of this module that explains the purposes of assessment and the assessment types to be used based on the purpose. Thank you.